This week on A Brit in Poland, I finally made it to Sandomierz. A lot of people from the channel have recommended that I come here, so I finally did. And it's been an interesting few days. So I elected to spend 3 nights here, which allowed me to do a bit of exploration outside of the city as well. I think I've just about seen everything that Sandomierz has to offer, every museum, every castle, well, there's one castle, every church/cathedral, and Poland's oldest mountain. Sandomierz is also notorious. It is the city in Poland with the most number of murders, well, at least on TV. It is famous for a TV series called Father Mateusz, and there is even a museum dedicated to that as well. So please stay tuned. I will tell you everything you need to know about Sandomierz and give you an idea of what you can expect to see here. Dzień dobry and welcome to A Brit in Poland. This channel is going to bring you everything you need to know about Poland. I am exploring the country, bringing you the history, trying to tell you about the culture and show you what it is really like to live here. So feel free to check out my other media, Instagram, Facebook, and I will share links to those in the comments. I also have a website, www.britlivinginpoland.com, where I collate my videos for easy to view manner. Also, you are welcome to contribute to my efforts through Patronite or Patreon, and all descriptions are available below the video. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and please come back for more by subscribing, liking, or commenting. Thank you very much. Do zobaczenia. I'd say Sandomierz is the city I've been recommended to visit the most by people on this channel, and after visiting it, it's clear why. It's one of the oldest cities in Poland, dating back before the 11th century. Depends when you want to count when it started, because it's gone back to the Neolithic era. It's located in the Świętokrzyska voivodeship, and it's moved across county lines a few times in its years. It has a population of about 21,000, so it's maybe not the biggest place in Poland, but it is certainly one of the most impressive. It's situated along the Vistula River, and which actually splits the city into two, one kind of more residential and touristy area, and one more industrial. And it is located on 7 hills, so it has a nickname, Little Rome, but it's also known as the Royal City, and you could say the murder capital of Poland, for some reasons we'll go into. As this is a very historical city, I wanted to start by talking about the history of Sandomierz, because I think it's very poignant here. So, the area has actually been inhabited since the Neolithic era. We're still not 100% sure exactly how far the habitation goes back, but at least to 3500 BC. And there are records linking it to trade with the Roman Empire. Well, when I say records, I mean archaeological evidence. It was listed by Gallus Anonymous, who was the first anonymous chronicler of Poland, as one of the 3 main seats of the Kingdom of Poland, next to Wrocław and Krakow in medieval times. And it's clear that there's been a town in place since the 9th century. From the 11th century, the stronghold was built on Castle Hill, and the area was given a princely seat, and a provincial town was established. Its location as a crossing of the Vistula River meant it was an important trading route from Western Europe to Ruthenia, so basically east to west. The first ruler we have on record is Henry of Sandomierz, who was in place from 1146 to 1166, and this guy, he was a bit of a big deal. I think he was like the only Polish person who joined the Crusades and was actually involved in the defending of the Holy Grail in Palestine. In 1227, the city came under Magdeburg law, which is kind of like German law. It was captured by the Tartars in
1241 and 1259 and ultimately destroyed in 1260. It was refounded in 1286 by Leszek the Black, who was the Duke of Krakow/Sandomierz. And in the 14th century, it was the place of the noble courts, and during the reign of Casimir the Great, the town was circled by high walls. The royal castle, the Opatowska Gate, and the town hall, and the cathedral were all built, and a lot of these are still standing to this day. In the 15th century, it was known as a place of trade, and it frequently had stays from the court and the king, and included impressive historical figures such as Empress Barbara of Scilly, King Sigismund II Augustus, Jan Amor Tarnowski. In 1613, the Jesuit college was founded here, though in around this time it was largely destroyed by Swedish incursions. They even blew up the castle. During the partitions of Poland, it was a border town between the Kingdom of Poland and Galicia. It was heavily damaged in World War I, sadly, and of course taken by the Germans during World War II. In 1942, a ghetto was established for the Jewish population, who were ultimately eliminated or moved to other camps. In 1945, it was liberated by the Red Army, and then we enter the modern era. So with this video, I'm going to take you through everything you can see here, give you some insights into what you can do and what I think about this place. I really recommend this as one of the must-see places in Poland. So we're going to talk about how to get into the city. As you may have guessed, it's on a hill. And this is the Opatowski Gate, and this is the oldest and only surviving gate in the city, dating back to the 14th century. Back in the day, there was some kind of curfew in place, so every night the gates were closed with an iron portcullis. These days, it's, of course, a tourist attraction, and a rather iconic one. You pay a very small fee, 10-15 zloty, and you can go upstairs and you get a little museum telling you about some of the surrounding sites and a bit about the history of the town. And at the top, you have this lovely view, probably the best view you will find in Sandomierz, so well worth it. You have the Needle Eye Gate, and this was attached to the city wall as well as a Dominican monastery back in the day. But it was also a way for people to slip into the city after the gates closed. And now it's just a pretty steep and narrow gate. You have the goat stairs, which, I don't know, I think of them as more serpentine, but yeah, they zigzag and provide a slightly nicer walk. The Opatowska Street is the main one leading into the city, and these days it's full of souvenir shops and a couple of interesting monuments, as well as being rather picturesque. And here you have the Church of the Holy Spirit. And this is actually originally built in 1312, burned down in 1349, rebuilt towards the end of the 14th century. There is a shrine of Christ the Merciful, who is pondering about something, you guess what. It's probably the first church you will encounter in Sandomierz if you're coming in through the main gate, and it's rather nice. There's also a small market square, which had a few souvenir shops. It was a rather nice, cute little place. And now we're going to head to the main market square. So the market square is beautiful. It's certainly the most iconic location in the city. Well, maybe some people would debate that. With the town hall proudly, occupying the center stage. You have quite a few restaurants here. quite a few souvenir shops, and a few monuments. It's a lovely place to stroll around and grab a bite to eat. I tried a couple of the restaurants here, and being honest, the one beneath the town hall, which we're going to get to, is the main one I would recommend. There are a few tenement houses surrounding it, the Olejnicy and Gomulka, and you have the incredibly helpful information centre. I really recommend popping in there. The town hall itself, so the main body is from the 14th century, and the White Tower you see is from the 17th. It's, again, rather iconic, and inside you have a few rooms dedicated as a museum, so you get to learn a bit about the history of the town hall. There was a photographic exhibit that was, quite cool. You get to see a lot of old cameras. It reminded me a little bit of the Cinema Museum in Łódź, though on a much smaller scale, of course. Here, I think it's a set of keys to the city. I didn't try using any of them, but it seemed pretty cool. I think the museum was actually free, if I remember correctly. And this is the restaurant. And I can say food was very reasonably priced here, very high quality, and I enjoyed a nice cocktail, which was ideal in the summer heat. So the first museum I'm going to take you to is the Father Mateusz Museum. Now, this is based on a popular TV series from 2008, which was based on an Italian series called Don Matteo. Mateusz Żmigrodski, played by Artur Żmijewski, helps the local police to solve crimes and aid the citizens of Sandomierz, similar to Inspector Morse from my hometown. People joke that there have been more murders in Sandomierz than there are people that live there, and this is why it's the murder capital of Poland. Right next door, you have the Czary Napary, and this was a very specialist museum about botany and medicine. It has one of the oldest books on the subject, and here you can learn all about home remedies for health, herbs, mushrooms, elixirs, and potions, as well as some famous poisoners as well. It's a very well laid out museum, very interesting, a lot of cool exhibits. It's not necessarily that interactive, but it does have a few elements. It's very Instagrammable for anyone who's looking for that. You have a series of rooms, beautifully drawn with all of the herbs, and a kind of secret mushroom garden to explore. Next, we're going to go to the underground route, and this is incredible. I think it was one of my favourite parts of the city. So the route was created by connecting cellars and corridors dug into the soft loess, which served as warehouses for goods such as herring, salt and wine. The excavations were also a shelter for people during war. They made it easier to escape the city or provide a temporary hiding place. The role of the Sandomierz Underground is told by a beautiful legend about Helena Krempianka, who saved the castle during the Tatar invasion, I think by luring some Tatars into a fake tunnel and them being buried alive, if I interpret it correctly. Unfortunately, the guide was in Polish, and foolishly, I didn't get the English audio guide. But you have these scenes of history kind of painted throughout. It feels like quite an adventure. It takes a while. I think it took 45 minutes to an hour to travel the whole route. And yeah, this is my top recommendation. So next we're going to go down one of the side streets, and we're going to go to the armory. So the Gothic interiors of the tenement house is rich in collections belonging to the banner of the Knights of the Sandomierz land. Swords, crossbows, bows and sabres are just a few of the exhibits of the armory. Anyone who visits this place can experience a living history lesson. And yes, you can basically pick up everything, try on various outfits. I'm not sure about the suits of armor, but you can pick up the swords, pick up the spears, try on some of the armor, and you get a real hands-on experience for what it's like. And there's a small dungeon for when you just need to get those kids out of the way. Next, we go to the birth of the Holy Virgin Mary Cathedral. And this was the Gothic church built around 1350 to 1370, founded by Casimir the Great. And later, some Baroque features were added. The walls of the side naves are panelled with paintings from the years 1708 to 1737 from the Martyrologium Romanum cycle, painted by Carol de Prévost. Among them are ritual murder and a depiction of the massacre of the population of Sandomierz by the Tartars. And I think there is also a nice little scene of the castle being blown up by the Swedes. Kind of been nice for the people at the time. There is a crypt beneath, and the crypt is only accessible if you get the audio guide, and I do recommend the audio guide because there are a lot of interesting things. Opposite this is a bell tower, and it has a few old bells there. These days I don't know if the bells are still ringing, but it was a nice little piece on the landscape. Next we have Długosz House, and this was built in 1476 by Jan Długosz, Poland's first historian, canon of the Collegiate Church of Sandomierz, and the Bishop of Lwów. He used to house missionaries here, and currently it houses the Diocesan Museum, and it contains art such as Gothic paintings. There's a famous statue of the Virgin Mary in here, and it has quite a few rooms to explore. There are some English papers available for you to read so that you can follow what's going on. And if you don't feel like reading, you can just sample the atmosphere here. It's a pretty impressive place, absolutely full of religious history. So I'd say well worth a visit. This statue was interesting. I don't really know too much about it, but this is flint, striped flint, and this ring and a few other examples in the city show this rather rare mineral, and it's rare because it is only found in this part of the world. You have the Royal Castle, so you saw a lot of stuff from the museum here at the beginning. The first mention of the castle could be found in the Chronicle of Yanek of Charnkov as a building erected by Casimir the Great on the ruins of the former princely castle. The monarch erected a completely new defensive structure made of stone and brick, intended as a seat of royal starosts. Transformations due to destruction or new fashion trends meant that the Kazimierz Castle was not preserved. The only remnant is a massive octagonal tower, a keep. Its foundations can be seen at the entrance to the courtyard. A significant reconstruction of the castle was initiated by Sigmund the Old in 1513. The Gothic structure changed its shape to a Renaissance one. The dominant feature of the building was the southern residential building, to which a two-storey eastern wing was added. And this is the oldest chess set in Europe, by the way. Quite impressive. The western wing was equipped with two towers. From the north, the castle was surrounded by a defensive wall with a castle gate. In 1656, the castle was blown up by the Swedes. This is said to be a crown of Casimir the Great, but there's perhaps some debate on that. It seems to come from the same period and seems to be of a similar style. The original crown is silver with bronze, and this is a replica that you see here. Yes, and you have a lot of paintings in one of the wings as well. So the castle, again, definitely one of your must-see places when you visit this city. Next, you have some real natural beauty. So you have a couple of gorges. So they have the St. Jacek Odrowąż gorge, which looks pretty cool, but it's quite short. But then you have the Queen Jadwiga Gorge, and these ravines were created by water that has been flooding down the lowest slope for thousands of years. The ravine is less than half a kilometre long, about 10 metres high. In it you can admire the fantastic shapes of the roots of the trees growing above. Their crowns create a green umbrella over the ravine, through which sun's rays can hardly penetrate. It owes its name to the legend of Queen Jadwiga, who supposedly lost a slipper here while walking. And similar to, say, Kazimierz or Nałęczew, these ravines are pretty stunning. And I have to say, again, I just loved it. Through the ravines you come to St James's Church, and this is the first church of St James, owed by the Sandomierz residents to the daughter of King Casimir the Just, Princess Adelaide. The current church was built in 1226 when the Bishop of Krakow, Iwo Odrawacz, decided to build the temple for the Dominicans worthy of the order. The church is adjoined by the preserved wings of the monastery and the belfry from 1314. The oldest church bells in Poland from 1314 and 1389 have been preserved on the church belfry, and a 13th century display case with the bones of martyr monks excavated from the graves of the cloister and bearing the marks of Tartar arrows. In the presbytery there is a sarcophagus of Princess Adelaide made from a single block of oak. This is, I'd say, my second favourite church, mainly because I got to go into a crypt. So next we're going to go outside of the city, about 2 kilometres or so, to the Pepper Mountain. Next we are going to go a couple of kilometres outside of the city to the Pepper Mountains. So these mountains, also known as the Pieprzówki, are a series of hills composed of, among others, Cambrian shales, which are very old rocks formed approximately 500 million years ago. Resembling peppercorns in their colour and appearance, and protected by a nature reserve, there are also numerous sites of xerothermic and steppe vegetation. Pieprzówki are said to be the Rose Mountains. The place is considered to be the largest concentration of wild rose species in Poland. Out of 25 species in the country, 12 have their habitat here. The most attractive time to admire them is between May and June, which is their flowering period, and the turn of the summer and autumn, when the bushes are covered with red fruit. It is not a very high mountain, I think only about 400-500 meters above sea level. But it does go, the path that you're on does go quite up and down and is quite slippery because of all of that, loose rock beneath you. The latter part of the trail is protected by like a rope kind of guide, which was more annoying than helpful at times. When you get to the summit, you do have a small fee to pay, but you get a lovely view of the surrounding countryside. And it was, a lovely day's walk, actually. I mean, I think in total it took me about 2-3 hours to follow the trail and end up the other side of the mountains. The trail is quite winding, going basically along one side of the mountains and then round to the other side. You do encounter some wineries on the way. Sadly, they were closed when I went, even though it was the heart of July. I think they were only open on certain days, which was a shame, but, it is what it is. I wouldn't have minded getting some wine. Sandomierz wine is meant to be nice, though it seemed to be a little bit pricey in the centre, but then sometimes you have to pay for a good quality wine. So we're going back to the city and we're going to go to this kind of Riverside Bay. And this is where actually I spent a lot of time because I just wanted to sit down, have a drink, enjoy just being outside, and I always love to sit by the river wherever I am. You'll find, I think, the only nightclub in Sandomierz, which is only open at weekends here. And you find these, kind of nice parks as well. There are also some boats that travel here, so you can get these river rides. I didn't particularly go for it this time. Maybe if I'd had a bit more time, I would have gone for it. But I think generally it's better to book in advance. I used this place quite a lot because they had some nice beer and some decent food, and I just enjoyed sitting by the river, having a drink. It was very relaxing, and it was very calm, very quiet. Even in the height of summer, there were not many people around. In fact, mainly I just saw families in this area, so very peaceful indeed. We're going to cover some of the last churches. So we have the Church of St. Michael, which is a historic Roman Catholic church in Sandomierz, currently a seminary church, formerly of the Benedictine sisters. It was built in the years 1686 to 92, according to the design of Jan Michał Link. And it does impress. Church of St. Joseph was built of brick and was consecrated on October 24, 1690 by the auxiliary bishop of Kraków, Stanislav Szembek. These churches were kind of to the north of the city, so just outside of the main centre. And yeah, they were nice. You couldn't really do much, but you could see them. You have the Church of St. Paul. The original wooden church was built in 1226 on the initiative of the Bishop of Kraków, Ivan Odrąbacz. After a fire, a new Gothic brick church was built. Its construction lasted 8 years and ended in 1434. In the years 1706 and 1719, it was transformed into a Baroque church. And again, I couldn't quite get inside this one, but at least I could have a look. You have the old Jewish synagogue from the 18th century, which is considered a historic monument of Jewish architecture in Poland. Not sure it's quite open to the public, but it's there. So I hope you're enjoying this journey of Sandomierz. I've tried to be very thorough. There are a couple of things maybe I didn't quite get to, but I've tried to show you a lot of what you can see. Here we're going to show you some of the parks. So this is Ogród Saski, which is like the city park. And, it has a nice fountain, some optical illusion displays. It's just a pleasant, quiet place to take a walk. And this had this kind of telecommunications tower or something, which had this beautiful mural, so certainly worth the visit. Then in the kind of center of the city, just outside of the main bit, you have the Plaza Ravelin, which has a couple of cafes. It's just offering a nice bit of a walkway to kind of break up and improve the greenery of the city, which, by the way, the city is very green. And the tourist board will love to go on about that. So from here you can access a couple of the gorges, and you can walk to the next park, which is, and I'm going to have fun saying this, Park Piszczela? Oh God, somebody please, correct me on that one. And this was just kind of like a big mound. I found another UFO. I always love finding these UFO buildings in Poland. I'm gradually building them up, so I will do a Why Poland is Controlled by Aliens video at some point. I love these birdhouses. But yeah, a very green city, which just adds to the tranquility. And I wanted to say a few words to recommend this hotel. So this is where I stayed. And the family that owned this place were very friendly, very chatty. They have this wonderful beast here. He's like a gentle giant, or maybe he was a small bear rather than a dog. It was hard to tell. Prices were pretty reasonable, and I had decent food each morning. So we're going to go on our last excursion now to a place called Salva Regina. And this is likely an artificial triangular mound which dates before 1286, and it has a 19th century statue up on the top of the hill. Apparently this is cleaned regularly, or used to be cleaned regularly, and it offers you a lovely view of the surrounding countryside and I think another winery. But essentially, Sandomierz for me was a very relaxing place. It reminded me a little bit of my my hometown of Oxford, because it's very historical. You know, you feel the historical vibes throughout the city. It was very quiet. Even in the height of summer, there weren't an insane number of tourists, and it is definitely geared to be a tourist city. The train station seems to be out of order right now, so maybe that's what's keeping people away. But really, I recommend. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this slightly longer edition of my videos, but I felt this place deserved it. So thank you, do zobaczenia, and see you again soon.